Hello! Thanks for joining me for another video. Today, once again, I'm playing Elite Dangerous in VR. VER, that is VR, virtual reality. I'm doing this video because I want to make a retrospective. I've had my HTC Vive now for about a year, and I've been playing Elite Dangerous with it for about a year. Funnily enough, I'm not prepared. So I wanted to make a video about how it's gone, really, how I found it, my impressions of it, the things that I didn't like, the things that I did like, and hopefully try and inform anybody out there who's still thinking about buying this virtual reality system. They don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I'm upside down. I totally cocked this up. This was supposed to be a nice, smooth, dramatic introduction. I've just made a total hash of it. Right, I'll start again in a second. But basically, I wanted to cover 1 year's worth of Elite Dangerous with the HTC Vive and what my impressions of it were. And hopefully inform people if it's actually worth spending the £760, which they're still asking for this thing, as well as all of the extra graphics equipment that you need. Is it worth it? My answer is yes. If you want to find out why, stay tuned. Okay then, so you're still here, even after that total cock-up of an introduction that I made. Thanks for staying. I think I'll start the introduction by... not the introduction, I've done that a bit, so I think I'll start the retrospective by talking about some of the bad stuff. And there's not much of it, it's just general things like the headset can be really uncomfortable to wear in the summer when it's really hot. Of course, you stick it on and it's just, your eyes melt, basically. They literally melt. The foam thing can get full of crap. It can get really itchy. But you can get replacements for those anyway, so that's not really a problem. Personally, I find the weight distribution of the headset's a little bit... it could be better. I find it rests quite heavily on my nose. I suppose it depends on the individual. It depends on what shape your head is, really. But for me, it rests heavily on my nose. So after about 3 or 4 hours of constant play, it'll start getting uncomfortable there. These are just little sort of niggly things. I mean, of course, you're gonna have this because at the end of the day, you're strapping a big brick to your face. So, that goes without saying. There are other issues though, which kind of got on my nerves a bit, particularly relating to Elite Dangerous. Because Elite Dangerous is a community-led game, or the story development is kind of community-based. When you get things like, for example, the alien ruins, where everyone was just going off and you had the big gold rush of everyone going off and scanning all the alien ruins and trying to relieve poor old Ramtar of as much money as possible. As fun as that is, it can't really be done in VR because the requirement is that you need all the information from the community, which is generally held on forums or in spreadsheets and stuff like that. So you can't view that information once you're in VR. It might be a nice point for Frontier actually. Have some kind of in-game interface where people can publish information and have it accessible in the actual game itself. You could go to a screen on your nav panel or something like that, and it could be there or whatever. That would be really cool because then you could stay in VR and do it. But I found when I was doing all the alien ruin scans that I had to basically forego VR, run it on a little windowed screen, and have a bloody spreadsheet open next to it. That was not ideal. But that's pretty much it for negative stuff, to be quite honest with you. I think we can just get on and talk about the positive stuff. So, what about the good stuff? Well, firstly and foremost, VR is a completely all-encompassing, all-immersive experience. That is its main selling point, obviously, because I'm sitting here on the bridge of my Anaconda. I can look around and, this ship is absolutely enormous. I would say that we're about, there's probably about 6 meters to that back wall there, so you really get a good sense of the presence. So I covered all this kind of stuff in a video that I made about a year ago where I talked about my first impressions of VR, and a lot of that still remains. So I'm going to try and touch on the points that I raised in that video in relation to how I feel about it 12 months on. But the other aspect of VR is... well, in relation to Elite Dangerous, is that Elite Dangerous implements the VR interface so well. It's the best game I have known to implement this interface. I've played other games such as what's that bloody car game called, Project Cars, for example, and that felt a little bit tacked on. The actual environments felt a bit too small. Where in Elite Dangerous, you get a really good sense of scale in here. It's really, really well done, and it serves up these wonderfully detailed environments with absolute expertise, really. It's a hell of an experience, and for that reason alone is why I made the statement at the beginning of this video that it is worth buying, it is worth spending the money on if you're still umming and ahhing about it. Now, I want to kind of talk about some of the features that were brought into the game within recent patches, which were from 2.2 onwards, such as the ship launched fighters. So we've got we can fire ships off from our ships. Now this isn't anything new, obviously, but the VR implementation of it is really good, and I kind of want to talk about that in relation to how well it improves the experience of the game. As well as that, we've got the stuff like the Hollow Me thingy, which I'll discuss in a minute. And we've also got obviously the new camera suites and stuff like that. I can't show you multi-crew because, well, from my perspective, multi-crew isn't really any different because I get stuck in command of the ship. I can't do anything else. So if my friends join me, I can't really take control of a fighter. However, I can take control of a fighter if I leave my ship in the hands of the AI. That's why I've got two separate fighters on board, because I usually have two people join me and they can pilot both of those at the same time, which is pretty damned fun. But anyway, I don't want to sit in this starport and ramble on for ages and ages and ages and ages, so let's get on with talking about something interesting. So I just want to cover the Hollow Me thing for a second, because this is quite interesting. So first of all, I don't know if I can articulate this very well, or it's certainly not going to be apparent on the video, but from where I'm sitting right now, there is like a full-size bloke standing in front of me, and this is one of the key points about VR. It offers the environment up in a one-to-one scale, and that is just weird. So it's just such a strange sensation. I feel like I'm physically sitting in a chair and there's an actual guy standing there who can strangely rotate on the spot. Dance for me, mother. Right, also you might notice that I have, now of course you've noticed because this functionality's been in the game for a while now, and everyone's aware of it, so I'm not going to talk about the the actual Hollow Me, the customization of your avatar or whatever, because that's covered billions of times over in other YouTube videos. But you've also noticed that I'm sitting somewhere else in the ship, which gives you a nice new perspective on things. And for VR, for example, this is another really nice thing, because you get to see new parts of your ship that you couldn't previously see. So it's all very well sitting in that chair over there, which I still appear to be sitting in. I've got no body. I've just realised I've got absolutely no body at all. Ugh, that's weird. Okay, so from sitting over there in the central position, you can look around, but you can't see all of the details. And being able to move perspective gives you extra, ability to explore your environment, which is another real good point for VR. So as I said, I'm not going to go through all of this stuff because we don't care. But however, I'm just going to launch this option because this is also very strange. If you've got VR, then try this. Again, in the actual video, you probably can't appreciate this, but right now there is a guy's head floating right in front of my face, and it's just such a strange experience. So it's really, really weird. And of course, I can look sort of around. I can move around. It's a bit too close for my liking. So let's get rid of that. We don't want to be doing this too much. I don't want to sit here babbling about that. So that's just basically a little bit on the Hollow Me interface, which is again pretty cool. So in my first video, I covered the outfitting. So it's a very similar sort of feel to that. So the outfitting is much the same as what I covered in my first impressions video, but you can watch that. I'm not going to go through it now. Right, what else? Oh yes, so we've got the ability to have these cameras now. Okay, so So there's a whole new camera suite which was added in the Commanders update, I think, which was 2.3. And you can do loads and loads of stuff with the cameras, but I'm not going to go through it all, so I'm just going to switch that off. But what I do want to just look at is the positions, the default positions that it gives you, because you're not tied to a camera, a specific angle with VR. You can sort of position yourself in these defaults and then quite freely look around. And again, because of what I said about VR giving you the experience in a one-to-one scale, you can really explore parts of your ship which you never ever got to see before. So here I am. It feels like I'm standing on the deck, and this Anaconda is just colossal. It's probably the size of a very large yacht. If you've ever stood next to one of those at a what are those things called where boats park? I don't know, a marina. That's the word I'm looking for. So, yeah, this thing is absolutely gigantic. And if we can just flip over so we can go to some different views. So here I am sitting on the dashboard, I think. And you can just sort of look around and look at different stuff. And I could, even fly the ship if I wanted to. But last time I did that, I crashed into a bunch of stuff, so I'm not going to do it now. Back here at the back of the bridge, and this is an interesting one, so we can kind of see that there's something there. Don't know what that is. It's got wires coming out of it. Many exposed wires in this ship, I've noticed. And then back there, which now this is something interesting which I found that I couldn't see from the seat, which was that there's actually a corridor which kind of wraps around the entire bridge there. So this thing in the middle, which I imagine holds an elevator or something down to the lower decks of the ship, is actually a kind of an island. Now, if I had enough room in my room here, I could, in theory, stand up and walk around, but I haven't, so I'm not going to even attempt it. This view just sticks you in the pilot's ear roll. It's pretty much standard, and here I am sitting on the left-hand side holographic projector thingy. And over here again, we're in one of the crew seats. That's pretty cool. And then on this side, we're in the other crew seat. So there's lots of details. It's like, there's a little kind of control over there, and there's a first aid kit, and there's some, I don't know what that is, aircon unit maybe, something, I don't know. So it's all pretty good, and then yeah, we got a sort of bow view and a stern view, and we're back to where we were. So that was just the ship stuff. So I just wanted to cover those, as I said, because it represents a high level of immersion in the game, which is something that VR has really, brought to the next level. The other aspects of the game are, of course, things like exploration and combat. So I'm not going to go over exploration really in this, because I've got a whole sort of series of 9 videos or so covering my exploits in that, and they're kind of a testament to how much VR has improved the game for me over the last 12 months. So yeah, go check those out if you want. But combat is something which has a completely different meaning in VR, and it's not one that's more advantageous, but it's one that's certainly more exciting. And I've done a little bit of combat videos before, but I'm going to do a little bit more in this video, because we now have the luxury of the ship-launched fighters, which they deserve a little piece of their own, because they're crazy. In VR, these things are just totally nuts. So I want to cover those next. But first of all, because I've been switching ships and buggering about, I've got to reinstate my crew, my AI crew, otherwise I'm going to end up not being able to, well, I will be able to do this, but my ship will just be dead in space while I muck about in a fighter, so that's no good. Right then, we want a little area to play in, don't we? We want something fun, so we could go for a hazardous. No, let's just go for a high, because my AI isn't that good, and I don't really like giving her the controls to my Anaconda, because she doesn't tend to use the ship very well. But we'll go with that one. Yeah, I'll get on with it and show you what I mean by excitement. So while we're en route to the space playground, let's talk a little bit about graphics. One of the things that's inherent to this first iteration of consumer VR headsets is the good old screen door effect. So what is that for a start? Well, it's the perception of space between individual pixels in the displays. So the displays are very, very close to your face physically, and you've got a couple of Fresnel lenses funneling the light into your eyes. So it's possible to actually see this spacing between the pixels, which gives the effect of looking upon the world as if you're viewing it through a fine black mesh. Now, this can have the effect of disrupting or confusing distant details, but what I found is after 12 months you learn to filter it out. You actually learn to filter it out very, very quickly, but after 12 months I don't even notice it anymore. It's a complete non-issue. Now, hopefully the technology is going to get better, because there are other headsets emerging on the market, such as the Pimax 4K, which reportedly does away with this screen door effect, because the displays are much, much higher resolution. You can't actually see the spacing anymore, but I can't really comment on that because, as you know, I've never used it, so I don't know. But hopefully HTC Vive will include this kind of higher resolution display at some point, maybe in their next iteration. So what about graphics cards then? Well, I started playing on a GTX 1070 and then I upgraded to a 1080. You can completely get away with it on a 1070. That's perfectly fine. Elite Dangerous isn't all that heavy for the most part. It can get a little bit graphics hungry when you're on a planet's surface or when you're in a space station, but by and large you can use a 1070 quite happily. However, I have found quite a big difference between it and the 1080. So if you want to know more about the actual graphic settings that I use, then I'll link a video to the end of this one where I discussed that. Now I'm going to make a bit of a bold claim here, and probably a bit of a cliche one as well, which is, over the last 12 months, if I consider my experience of VR in reflection, I would say that the headset has become more of an extension to myself rather than a gaming peripheral. And I know this is a little bit cheesy, but it's actually true. So I can't actually play this game anymore just on a normal monitor. I appear to have lost all my ability to perceive depth. I just crash into stuff. It's crazy. I can't even begin to imagine how I played this without VR. So the point I'm trying to get across really is how seamlessly integrated the game is with VR. Right, so anyway, I'm here in this asteroid field, so let's get the guns out, because we've got a bastard over there who's about to scan me probably, but I'm not going to engage stuff just yet, because I want to there he goes. I want to talk about the ship-launched fighters. So I've got two fighters on board, a Taipan and a Condor. The Taipan is a bit hardier, it's a bit slower than the Condor, but it packs a bigger punch with two fixed beam lasers. And the Condor is more nimble, faster, but a little bit weaker. So I think it's more of a fragile ship, and it's got two gimbal beam lasers which don't yield as much damage. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the Taipan first of all, and I'm going to stick myself in it, and I'm going to give control of the Anaconda to my AI person. So you start off in this pretty cool looking shuttle bay, and then you get this sort of epic launch sequence, which is thrilling. It's exciting as hell. So as you can see, I am in the fighter, which is hilariously small, and there's my mighty vessel, and that thing's just rumbling away over there. It's a really reassuring sound actually. So I've got a couple of beam lasers which they just feel so close. It actually feels like I'm in a one-seater car here. This is smaller than my actual car. The canopy is just really close. That handle there is about 5 centimeters from me. I can just reach out and grab it, but I can't because it's not there. Back behind me, I've got pretty much nothing apart from these glowing things, whatever they do, is some vents which don't appear to go anywhere, and same deal on the other side. And I can kind of just sit up and chair and look out over the ship. It's just so cool. It's such a confined environment. But going back to what I said in one of my original videos, because I started a combat video and I introduced it using an Eagle, and the reason I did that is because the Eagle is a very small ship, and I I likened it to the experience of being in a stripped out race car. It connects you far more with the action. Whether flying that thing over there is, you feel a little bit disconnected, or quite a lot disconnected in that case. You feel completely, very well protected. You've got this massive, great big ship which isn't highly maneuverable, but capable of dishing out loads of damage and taking loads of damage. Whether in this, you've got a ship which is extremely fast, extremely small, and very, very nimble. Oh, he's clean, bugger. Oh, and there's a rock in my way. But boost turning is just crazy. It's so fast, and you can just change direction so quickly in it. And oh, that's from that targeted hauler I've got. And it's really cool as well, because it's interesting coming up and seeing your own ship flying along there with all its guns hanging out. So I was hoping to get a little bit of action, but there's absolutely nothing going on in this asteroid belt at all, is there? So let's have a quick look at the Condor. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I can't really do anything. I've got to dock this ship first. Let's request the docking.
Fighter retrieval sequence ready, Commander.
Now, last time I tried to dock, I crashed it quite spectacularly. So, up the arse of me Anaconda. So I think it actually tucks the wings in as well. I don't think I'll be able to see it from inside. No, but from outside you can see the wings sort of fold up. And then you just sit in this cradle and go up.
Retrieval process complete, Commander.
Awesome. Right, so in due course, let's launch the Condor. So much the same sequence, except the Condor itself is...
Secure, Commander.
I love that. That's another interesting ship. Right, so... temporarily reduced. Main ship's power plant is malfunctioning. That's weird. Okay, never seen that before. Let's just come to a stop. So this ship is feels pretty much the same size as the Taipan. It's very small. It feels longer. There's the kind of... Uh-oh. Where's that going? She's overshot me. Yeah, so the canopy on the Taipan is closer to me, and it sort of wraps around underneath, so I can see out the bottom of it, whether the Condor's got a more typical fighter sort of cockpit. Again, it's a core dynamic ship, so it's quite nicely finished in here, but it does feel really, really small. The confine, the bulkheads are just right here, right up close to me. This ship is immensely quick, so we can probably hit... Yeah, so we're doing 500 already, which is fairly fast. As well as that, it's just so nimble. I mean, it hurts your eyes. When you corner, it feels like it pulls your eyes out of the sockets. It's crazy. It really messes with your inner ear as well. Okay, so here I am in the Taipan, and I have located myself... What's that? A Cobra. Yeah, this might be fun. Master is wanted. Right, so combat time. So I'm going to dump some pips into engines and weapons. So the challenge with this ship is to try and outmaneuver your target. He's trying to scan me. He's trying to fly backwards and scan me. So let's just crack on. And it's a thrill ride just to fly this thing and do this. So the problem is I don't quite have the acceleration that Just gonna get some guns on me now. And I haven't got any power and shields, but oh, missed. So the Condor is actually more maneuverable than this. Oh, he's firing rockets at me. Ah, he's toast. So this thing packs a pretty hefty wallop actually, which is really good when it's in the hands of a capable AI. It's like having an extra turret on your ship, which is far more intelligent. Speaking of my ship, where is it? There she is. And we've got an eagle as well. I don't want to be out here fighting for too long because... What's that? An Imperial Clipper. You know what, let's attack this thing. I think what I'll do is I'll instruct the AI to attack my target. Crack on. There she goes.
Affirmative. Maneuvering to attack position.
She's using the multi-cannons already, even when it's still got its shields up, so it's probably not wise, but... And the other thing you can do with this ship is get right up and close and personal with your foe. This is probably a little bit too close and personal. Back it up. But the response is good enough that you can actually change your direction very, very quickly.
Enemy destroyed, Commander.
So much fun. Right then, so I'm going to wrap this up before it gets too long. Hopefully the points I've covered here have been some use to anybody who is trying to decide whether or not to purchase VR. I thoroughly recommend you do it for the aforementioned reasons. And yeah, basically that's all I've got to say on the matter. So, you know, if you've got any questions for me, stick them in the comments, whatever. I'll try my best to answer them. But for now, goodbye!